welcome to another edition of the Starchildjr Stuffs and Thangs podcast, where we talk about all types of stuffs and things. And on the theme of bringing family through to come and join the podcast and shoot the shit with the boy, I brought on one of my bandmates, the wonderfully talented Mr. Danny Bedrosian, our current keyboard player, and our resident P-Funk historian as well. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Garrett? Man, it's good to be on the show.
Oh man, well, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate it. Uh, you know, uh,
Yeah, no, it's
I,
my pleasure.
well, I found me a little platform to kind of keep on, keep in touch with the people. So I figured this would be a good way to let people kind of get to know, things about us that they might be wondering. You know, what I mean, good way to kind of get in depth with us and shit.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
Yes, indeed.
So
Exactly.
as
No, that's the
far,
move.
yeah, So as far as yourself,
I'm proud of you.
oh, thank you very much,
Yes.
brother. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So now, as far as yourself, you've been playing in this band for a few years now. You pretty much a veteran now. You know what I'm saying? However, most of us have some kind of an interesting story. At least those of us who weren't like born into this, and this was our destiny handed to us. You know, a lot of our other members, they have interesting stories and how they came across this band or ended up joining this band. And you have a pretty interesting story too. So what is your story, man? Tell the folks how you became a part of this P-Funk phenomenon.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I've been playing almost my whole life. I come from a family of musicians, and pianists, classically trained. And so sometime around, early 90s, I was, you and me around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I was a youngster. I was into the P-Funk. I got into P-Funk from a friend who introduced it to me. And from a very young age, I was like, this is the music for me. After already being a professional kid musician, playing in other bands, playing in metal bands, doing classical recitals, doing working for hip hop producers in the studio, doing all kinds of different things up in the New England area. And then when I discovered P-Funk for myself, it was like, oh my God, this is the music I've always wanted. It combines all the things I'm really into in a form that's both unique, more than listenable, but listenability is underrated in our world today because we're so kind of tapped into hearing it on the worst speakers possible or whatever, but like the most listenable experience. I remember getting those Funkadelic albums on cassette tape and playing them on my Walkman. Okay, Xennial, hello. But doing that was just like, it just changed my life, So anyway, from a very young age, 12, 13, I was like, I'm going to be the keyboard player for P-Funk when I grow up. I'm going to join the band. I'm going to meet George. I'm going to do it. I just like set it up in my head. I know that sounds crazy, but everybody who grew up with me, from family to friends, everybody will tell you the same thing. Danny, ever since like 6th grade has been like my dream. But more like goal, like life goal, just sort of, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to allow any alternatives. So I set it up that way in order to, but my coming in is the weird, it's always for all of us. Like you said quite poignantly, it's the most oddball kind of coming in. It's all these like kind of eccentric stories of how people got in.
Yeah.
For me, it's no different for me. I was a fan, like I said, and a musician. And I had to come up with creative ways to try to get in touch with George specifically or the band in order to try to like sell my idea of, hey, I'm this keyboard player. If you need anything, you know what I mean, type of thing. And I entered a contest for, do you know about this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know this story?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
I want to let the people.
Okay, I figured you did. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I entered this contest that was put on by like several kind of pivotal people. Michael Clip Payne from the P-Funk, Sarah Traeger and Gina Hall and Melissa Weber and Marcy Geragosian. Like several people put this thing together, and it was like, you make a bed sheet for George, you design it, you have to get, there's very specific instructions of the kind of bed sheet and the color, and then the kind of paints, and then you paint on it.
He's designing his
outfit, gets the
outfit,
best one, whatever.
his show outfit.
For the stage. Yeah, his bed sheet back in the bed sheet days. And I did one that had like Boogie as Rump of Steelskin pics, you know, the DM Jones photos that everybody knows, and a likeness of that close up, One Nation flag on the back, aliens and Too Tight for Light and all kinds of like things all over it. And they selected me to give it to him in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was like, I don't know, 16 something, and gave it to him, and immediately was like, this is my music, like to as many people as I could. I mean, early people that I was talking to at that point were your father, Billy Bass, Trelude, of course George. Those were big ones early on, but then as time went on, also, I mean, Peanut is the first one I met in the band, really, even before that. But you know, as time went on, you know, more and more people, and just trying to like working with people time and time. And then I got invited down to record at the studio, which was like an erstwhile studio at a house that George had in Monticello, Florida, which is like the country. For someone like me,
it's Florida.
It was like a whole nother planet.
This is Florida.
Yeah, it's another planet. It was like I landed on Mars. And I just came out like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, it was like a whole other world. But I got to record with members of the band. I worked really closely with Jerome Rogers, both before and after that point, and for quite some time. Fellow keyboard player in the band, holds the record with me for longest tenured. We're the two longest tenured keyboard players in the live band, if you do it by like how long they've been on the road. Me and Jerome actually tied for the same amount of years. And Jerome is a huge inspiration to me and was a big mentor for me. And so I worked with him, and over time, I also worked with a lot of the people that were down in the Tallahassee set before I even moved down there. And when I completed college at university up in New Hampshire, I came down to Florida. I moved to Tallahassee as soon as I graduated. Moved down there, no job, just like, I'm gonna do it,
chasing your dream.
I chased a dream. I did studio work like I was already doing. Oh, and before this time too, I should point out, because I've left out actually where I first met you, was after doing the studio work in Monticello. I got selected just in some cities to provide some keyboards and help with some keyboard tech stuff on the road. This is like late 90s or early 2000, 2000 maybe 2000. Okay, because you were on the crew too. You were a mainstay member of the crew at that period. And that was like also like the THC Mercenaries period and things like that. So that's when I first met you, was then, right?
My first tenure when I was a rapper.
That was, yeah. And so I did some of that just up in the Northeast, Boston, New York, Connecticut, Worcester, those places. And then on one or two tours when I was still in college. And then I moved to Tallahassee and started working in the studio, that kind of thing. And a job opened up, and came out there as a keyboard tech. And at that time, there were 3 keyboard players in the band. So Bernie Worrell was back and had been back for a couple of years. Jerome Rogers was there, and Razor was there still at this point. So there was the 3 of them, and I was teching for all 3 of them. But all 3 of them also made me play. All 3 of them were like, you got to play. So I played on my first show teching. And even before that, George had me play. There was a show, I think my very first show was for playing like a P-Funk show was in September of 2003. And I played Fender Rhodes. And
Okay.
that was like, all I had a Fender Rhodes and I played Fender. That's my very, very first show. And I played the whole show. And so
Okay.
that's my first show playing, really. But then after that, got the job teching, but then they had me playing right away and did my first tour, full tour, I'm like age 22, 22, 23, like around there.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. After that, I got the keyboard chair. George bought me a rig. I still remember your father the day, because your dad used to ride the bus with us for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Like the bus that you and me would be on, he rode on that bus.
He rode on
And
whatever
I
bus
remember
he
him in
felt
the
like
back.
riding on.
Yeah, that's true. At this particular period, he was riding on this bus, and I remember him. He bought you a rig. He bought you a rig. Like just tripping about buying me a rig. It was the funniest. He bought you a rig, and like it would just keep going back to it. Every conversation we go to, it keep going back to bought you a rig, and it was like, oh man. And
He
then
needed you to
the rest is
understand
history. Had the chair.
he needed you to understand the magnitude of this, man.
Yeah.
You don't understand what this means,
Yes,
son.
of course. No, and I did. In fact, for the first decade that I was in the band, I still like pinched myself and I'm like, this is real, this can't be real. This is real, this is really real. Okay. I mean, just because it's what I had worked for so long, and for it to reach fruition, it really teaches you something about the human mind, though, and the power of the human spirit and mind and all of the stuff we don't know about, But
It gives you it
I
gives you
attribute it to that a lot,
it gives you a lot of perspective, man, that you probably wouldn't get just if you weren't a part of this environment, man. This environment, it gives you some perspective,
Definitely.
man. It's like, like I said, it's like school. You
Definitely.
come into this as a youngster, and you always are experiencing these cats that are a little older than you, but relatable, and they do what you do, and they show you the
Yeah.
ropes. And sometimes, depending on who you're dealing with, sometimes the lessons are harsh, sometimes the lessons are
Sure.
heartfelt, and easy. You never know. You just gotta take it for what it is. It's about how bad do you want to be here. That's
Yeah,
what that's that's
definitely.
that's what it ends up being. You get into the band, and then it becomes the test of, all right, how bad do you want to be here? Because like you said, usually too, you get in and you're behind. You end up in a position where there's a whole bunch of other people doing what you do that have already been there doing it, and you don't necessarily get a
Yep.
handbook of how to operate out here. So you kind of just get thrown in this situation, and you introduce yourself to folks. Some folks are receptive, some might not be. It is what it is. You got to hold
Yeah.
on. But if
Yeah.
you hang in there and you persevere, then you end up the winner.
That's 1,000,000% true. And I like to pride myself on the fact that I mentored under these people, because like
Mm-hmm.
I've described it to other people before, like saying it's like the samurai or something. These dudes, including your father, who is beloved by so many people, and Boogie and people, Bernie, my
Mm-hmm.
God, like, and these people aren't around anymore. So it's like what they were able to impart is now only on record. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
you got a great ear, you got a great ear, but there's also not just the ear, it's the feel, it's the fingering, it's the
It's the
placement, it's the
nuance.
mind to create it. Oh, the nuance is the key. And just the mentorship under those people, to me, and people who are alive, because I don't feel like we treasure enough the living as well, while they're here, because it'd be nice to hear it. I don't mean they'd like to hear it, but it'd be nice to hear it instead of just being immortalized after you're dead, which
Right.
is also legendary and amazing. But being here and being able to receive that kind of respect is nice for those type of people, I would like to say, for them,
Yes, indeed.
but I'm proud to have studied under those people. I mean, yeah, and some lessons are hard, yeah, but I mean, like, I studied under my dad for 18 years and my mom, and they were tough,
Gets no tougher than
and
that.
they ran a piano school,
Mm-hmm. Gets
and
no
so
tougher than that.
those two together, actually, they kind of put them two together, and those are the two toughest for me, because it's
Yeah.
like you have the best and worst of both worlds, or all worlds, in both situations, and because of that you have to navigate a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked me once, what's the hardest P-Funk song to play? And I was like, it depends on your interpretation of hard. And I said, there's just, without going into it too deeply, I just said there's a bunch of different ways you can look at something being hard. Like, it could be technically hard. It could be the kind of thing where it's like you have to do it in a different key than the key you've practiced it in all this time. It could be something like it's at a tempo that you've never played it at, and therefore changes your idea of it. It could be a thing where it's like variations. You have to have so much knowledge of the canon that the variations are so big, and you have to sort of know the arrangements over the years. That can be hard. Or it can just be like theoretically hard, you know what I mean? Or more difficult to remember because it's longer. Like, there's so many different variables of hard, and there's so many songs in this catalog that to answer that question, it's the same kind of thing as what's your favorite song? I kind of, sort of can tell you, but not really.
I don't like that question. I hate when people ask me what's my favorite something, man. I'm like, I don't have a favorite. I like a whole bunch of, like, no, I'm not in that box. I like to try things. I might like this today, but if I experience that, I might be more into that. So I don't want to tie myself to a favorite anything, man. So I dig it.
Right. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough to do.
And
as time goes on, it's like,
no,
sorry, go ahead. You go.
You go ahead, because I was getting ready to take it.
I was just gonna say, as time goes on, you get to a different place with what I think that, like, my idea of how I feel about things at a certain age is very concrete, and it needs to be like that when it's that age, so you can formulate those kind of building blocks in the rest of your life. But then as time goes on, your opinions don't necessarily change, but your viewpoint skews in a way where you might soften or you might harden. Some people harden, some people soften, some people, they change their terminology, and the way that their opinions are formed changes, but it's usually because they become opened to something else.
Yeah.
And definitely traveling the world. I mean, I already lived in a pretty liberal sphere as far as America goes. Being from Massachusetts is more liberal than most places, but getting to travel and see the world opens you up to the perspective of everything you don't believe or don't know about or aren't susceptible to or pertaining to, or it's not in your face every moment. That's something that is
it brings the history books to life.
It's just
it brings the history books to life, man. You know what I'm saying? It brings the history books to life. It gives those books different perspectives. Some of that stuff you learned in school, you get to see it, firsthand. And, actually, you even find out in some instances that, hey, what they taught me was not what it is. You know what I mean?
And it could be that. Yeah, sure.
To speak to what you just said, I was kind of having this discussion with someone a little while ago. Your experiences, as well as how you mature in life, your experiences start to shape your perspective and how you see things, whether you do, become hardened, like you say, or, become a little more easygoing about things. Your experiences along the way are what shape those things. So essentially, it sounds like what you're getting at is you having the being blessed with the ability to be able to travel the world, like I also have been. It's given us a different kind of a perspective. It's given us a positive perspective of things. Giving us kind of a different perspective, maybe from, like I speak for myself, like I kind of have a different view on the world from folks that I kind of kick it with on the regular when I'm home, who don't get a chance to see some of these things.
I think that's seen. Yeah.
So, I recognize it immediately when we start having conversations, like to the point where sometimes I have to kind of just like back out of conversations because I don't want to sound like I'm, like being arrogant or know-it-all or any of that kind of shit. So, it just is what it is sometimes. I just accept the blessings for what they are. And, sometimes you got to quietly accept those blessings.
This
Just be like, yeah, uh, thank you, because
this
y'all, whew,
leftist pinko communist
right on,
ideology
right
that
on. You
you're
know what I'm saying? In this bizarro world we're living in now, man, thank goodness that I got a chance to see what I've seen. I might not get the chance to see it ever again at this rate. All right, so let's check this out.
somebody
So,
else just said that to me the other day.
yeah,
Very smart, very true.
for real, man. All right, so check it out. So, so
Mm-hmm.
now you're in the band, and now you've done this for a few years. You got your feet wet. You know what I mean. Now you kind of, you know how to maneuver, and now you're figuring out how to maneuver on your own as well. All that to say,
Yeah,
I'm looking at the poster in the background. Uh, you know, the Danny Bedrosian and the Secret Army. Eventually you
yeah,
conglomerated that. Let's talk about the Secret Army,
yeah.
man. Tell me something about Danny Bedrosian as an artist. Like, how do you explain the music that you do, the Secret Army? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's cool because it actually combines the first conversation we had in the second one.
Okay.
I was in the band for maybe a year, and I put out a solo album, and I still do solo albums too. They're kind of like my two different worlds, Secret Army albums, solo albums, but they're really just kind of two different sides of the same stuff that I'm putting out there. Albeit my solo stuff, it might be a different experience every time. Whereas Secret Army is sort of my, I don't know if you want to call it political vehicle, but it is more the political vehicle. And it
Okay.
also incorporates some of most of the time in its history, it's incorporated as the bulwark of it, the rhythm section or pieces of the rhythm section of the P-Funk. And it started around 2006.
Okay.
And we did shows here, shows there for the first few years, and then after 2009 we started doing tours, and we've been doing albums since the very beginning. And it was sort of like my well, I always say, like, in a lot of ways, System of a Down is the Armenian Public Enemy.
Okay.
So like in that same way, in that same, I guess, way, this is another, because there's so, being Armenian American, you know, it's experience coming from the diaspora. We've fled the genocide and all that, but it's, genocide that the perpetrators still don't admit to. So there's the whole hypocrisy of this existence, and it's kind of a weird existence, and it's there's a lot of existential questions that go on in the Armenians' head in general, whether in the diaspora or in the Republic, about what it means to be that. Because in some countries, much like African Americans in America, Armenians in Turkey live as third-class citizens, and it's to this day perpetrated. Except in their history books, they say it would be like U.S. history books still saying slavery never happened, kind of type of thing. So like over there, and there's not much there's a voice, we have a voice, but we're such a small community. So like my whole thing as a much younger man, again, we're talking about that thing about our opinions maybe not changing, but how we feel about things changing. As a much younger man, I was probably more radical, nationalistic in terms of my Armenian heritage than maybe I am now. But again, my experiences as an Armenian have also continued to show me that I was mostly right. It's just that when you're younger, you're a little bit more revolutionary about it. So like the very first Secret Army album is extremely revolutionary, and it's all about those concepts, and it's dark. And from there, I kind of branched off in a lot of different directions. And it's always been also about musicianship and the revolution of musicianship, like being able to take it into other places in a radical way, and how like even music without lyrics can be radical, if that makes sense. So Secret Army has always been kind of like that. It's always been sort of about that in its own way.
Okay.
And we have a new album coming out this year, very soon,
Okay.
called Exaltation. And it continues that same trend. It's interesting now more than ever, with everything that's happening in the world and been happening. I think this is probably my most political album since the first one. and it's
Okay.
our 9th Secret Army album.
Okay. I was about to ask how
So
many albums. All right. How many Danny
I think
Bedrosian
it's the
solo
ninth.
albums?
There's the solo albums. There's maybe 10 or 12. So you put them together because they all have my name on them. They're all sort of just my albums if you put them together.
Mm.
You could sort of do that in a way as well. If you put them together, it's something. It's 18 or 19, I think,
You
something
put in
like
some work, don't you?
that. Try. I
Yeah,
try.
as you should. As you should. That's what's up. That's what's up. So
Now more than ever.
and you work on other projects as well. What other projects have you worked on, man? Like I see you got the Trolls thing in the background too. You worked on the Trolls 2 record,
Yeah.
the soundtrack.
I'm proud of that. Yeah, I'm proud of that because I mean it's such a big influence on the kids that are my daughter's age
Yeah,
that it's
man.
like the same way PCU opened up P-Funk to certain 90s generation and Good
Yeah.
Burger opened up a 2000s and early 2010s generation. Now Trolls, this is the 2020s,
Mhm.
Trolls World Tour is like all of the kids, and I, because I'm a dad of a kid that age, it's all their friends, and everybody's calling me, oh my God, you're on the, like, it's a big deal.
Mhm.
And a bigger, way bigger deal than even most movies, because it's like the biggest digital seller of all time or some kind of crazy thing. So it's like, there's all kinds of hype
Well,
surrounding it. But I was really proud to do the Atomic Dog
yeah.
remake on that.
It was unfortunate that it came
That
out when
has, by the way,
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say that has, by the way, when we recorded it, I just want to say real quick about this. I did a lot of like brand new bass station patches that I made just for that song, and I
Mhm.
erased them all after I did them on that song, so they're on. I do that sometimes. I've done that for you a couple times too. I make the sound and I just erase it afterwards, so it's never on another record. And I did that on this Dog remake. But the Dog remake also has the original masters. So there is this dope backup vocal stuff that happens at the end. It's like your father and Muddy and Eddie Hazel, Clip, and like a whole bunch of people, Mally, a whole bunch of people, and is so nasty, and you never hear it on the record. So it's like that alone is a really cool reason just to check it out.
Yeah.
Because I
It's
was like,
dope.
what is this? It's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was unfortunate
But
that
some
it
other
was
projects.
released when it was, but because of the COVID thing, shut all the theaters down when it was supposed to be released. However, when they decided to. It was one of the first ones that they decided that they were just gonna do these new releases at home on demand, and
Mhm.
it smashed. It was one of the biggest digital
Yeah.
releases of all time. So, yeah, man. So good work. And then
Yes.
you said
Yeah.
what
So I
else?
think
Go
it
ahead.
did bigger as a result.
Yeah, and then you said you
Oh,
were
okay.
working on
So
what
some
else?
other stuff, yeah, some other stuff I've been doing. I mean, obviously keeping on, we're doing lots of stuff with George. He's working on new P-Funk All-Stars material, of course, you
Mm-hmm.
and I and everybody involved. In addition, I'm doing this, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I'm actually really proud of this, but I still have to work out some of the kinks or how it's going to work. But I did this album of kind of some rare, some not so rare P-Funk covers. And I
Okay.
don't yet know how I'm going to do this, but it's stuff that ranges from like 1960 to like 1980. And it's
Okay.
like in a pretty wide range, but it deals with like very specific sort of subgenres of the P-Funk. And for people who know P-Funk and how vast it is, it's kind of like certain flavors of the P-Funk. It's got some of that, it's got a lot of the Northern Soul flavor.
Mm,
It's a lot, I'd say minus maybe one song, you could consider it all Northern Soul. So
okay.
in a way, it's sort of like mostly Northern Soul oriented P-Funk stuff. And I'm really proud of it because, it's funny when you sing a song that you wrote, you have to put so much into what you consider the composition and
Mm-hmm.
how it needs to be done. But then when you have sung something that somebody else wrote, whether it's a hymn or something like this with P-Funk or anything in between, if you've sung it like a billion zillion times, there's there's a bit of the song that you have with you from doing it, especially if you do it with the record a billion zillion times or with some live shows or anything like that. You know this better than most. I'm preaching to the choir here, but I guess this is for the people. You know, it gives you this other nuance. So I really wanted to capture that nuance on record, because the originals do a different nuance than, say, something like this. And I've been opening up some of the maggot brains on the road for the past few years with different rare P-Funk songs, which is something I just like to do, so we can just like, you know, hey, there's this, and then there's this. I think it's just so many people out there don't realize the breadth and the scope and the width of P-Funk, like how vast and long running. They don't, you know what I mean? I have to constantly throw stats out there in interviews so people understand like what I'm talking about. You know.
Well, that's gonna be an interesting project, man. And yeah, y'all, if we ever get a chance to get back out here anytime soon, you guys can check Danny. Just before we do Maggot Brain, usually opening up with some kind of P-Funk classic, man, some kind of solo rendition, man. So yeah, Danny puts in a whole lot of work, man. And at this point, Danny is a veteran, man. He's been doing it out there with us for a while, man. You know, he's got actually more years in actual years on the road as an actual band member than I do. You know, I just happen to be born in it, so I've just been around forever. But Danny's been putting in work for a long time, man. And like I said, he's got a lot of solo work out there as well. So that is available, that you can go check out all over Spotify. You know, go shoot him your website too, man. Shoot him your info, man. What you say you got a new record about to come out? And where can they check out Danny Bedrosian?
Yeah.
Man?
So right. So okay, yeah. So the new album, it'll be available where all digital forms are sold, but we're also going to have a vinyl and a CD and probably a few other things too as well. Okay. You can go to DannyBedrosian.com. You can go to DannyOnEverything.com. Both of those, that's my website and my podcast.
I'm gonna put that right
check
here.
out all the albums and stuff through.
It's right there.
Cool.
It'll be right there.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And my albums, they can get through all that and through, like, say, CD Baby, but really through all the mediums that they get music through. They can get that stuff. And then also there's one other project I'm working on that I want to mention, and it's with the Nalbandian brothers. They're these producers from Armenia, from the Republic of Armenia, that reached out to me that were like, yo, we love you. We love the P-Funk. You're Armenian, you're in P-Funk. We love the funk in Armenia. So we started working together and doing this really kind of, to me, it's very June-ish, just in my opinion. Like, it's got that, a lot of the tracks got that June-y vibe to me. And we put our thing together, and both of us, those guys and me, have that, you know, love of that kind of stuff. And been some really cool tracks, and you can hear those singles, you know, on YouTube, or you can download them on Spotify and iTunes and all those places, Amazon, etc. And there'll be a full-length album of that coming end of this year, beginning of next year, something like that.
Okay, that's dope, man. I'll be looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the people, man, will be looking forward to that too, man. And they're gonna be checking out some of your latest, or some of your older works as well. I said Danny puts in a lot of work, man. Danny's on my record too, man. I think he's on my first record. Y'all check out my Hand Me Down Diapers record, man. Danny played all over that too, man. So, you know, that was in the family.
I think I'm on the whole thing. I think.
Yeah, you are. That's what I said. Danny played on the whole thing.
Proud to be too. It's a great record.
Yeah, I got to get you on some of these news tracks too, man. I'm about to put out Pandemic pretty soon. I pretty much got this one recovered, but I got another one, man. Look, y'all get an exclusive on this one. I got a track. Nice. I think my dad actually put it out before. He had that song "Glory." It's one of the last ones that he recorded. I got a MP3 of it and shit. So I'm gonna do a chop up, and I'm gonna do a feature with him, man. So that's gonna be dope.
Nice. Yeah. I love "Glory."
Yeah,
I forgot about that song.
Yeah, man. So I'm a jump.
That's a good one.
And I got a few more projects I'm working on too. So I'll get you something down there, man. And likewise, man, I'm sitting in front of my studio, man. Hit me up with some stuff.
Okay, I will. Okay,
and I'll probably
be sending you some of this P-Funk stuff then.
That's what's up. I might see y'all down Tally pretty soon too. I might come
Yeah.
down there and kick it for a minute.
Good, good. Yeah, we're working. We are
Yeah, I
the
know. I got to come
the
down there and get
lab is
some.
still up. All the labs are up.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I got to
please.
come get some before I miss out. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you need to get down here. Come on.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining me today. Y'all give it up. I told you we can hear you when you applause at home. We can hear your applause at home from your living room. So y'all give it up for
Yes.
Mr. Danny Bedrosian, man, and y'all go check him out. And when we get back out on the road, y'all come see both of us and the whole gang, because we'll be back at it again soon, man. Y'all stay up, man. Stay what they say, stay vigilant. You know what I'm saying? We are
Yes.
resilient people. Take care of yourself, Danny.
That's right. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Indeed. Well, I'll have you back again. We'll do it again.
Yes, I'm
All
down.
right. All righty, brother.